Hello everyone, my name is Roya, and today I'm here to tell you about 5 reasons why you should read the Demon Child Trilogy by Jennifer Fallon. Reason number 1, every point of view change is a new chapter. So that makes this book, this series, really, really great for any sort of fantasy lover, even if you haven't really read any epic fantasy and all of that stuff. Like, this would actually be a really good gateway book into the genre, just because that makes the chapters really, really short and less overwhelming. And then when you get like a random, you know how sometimes you get a random point of view change in the middle of a chapter, and you kind of go, hey, why are we in this other country all of a sudden? Oh wait, I see, we're following these other people. Like, these books don't do that at all. Every time a point of view change happens at all, it's a new chapter already. Reason number 2, there are some really awesome characters in this series. So if you saw my wrap-up where I talked in depth about this series, you will know that I was not particularly fond of the main character because she was just really bland, but the story is not about her. It's not just about her. Particularly in the second book, Trees and Keep, a lot more people get introduced, and some of them are just so awesome and really badass. And my favorite just has to be Princess Audrina, because she is the opposite of the pure, perfect, virginal protagonist that we get in so many stories. Like, she's been around the block. She's slept with tons of people, including prostitutes and all kinds of stuff. Like, she is not afraid to be promiscuous and wear skimpy outfits, and she's just such a badass, and she's so, like, resourceful and just really, really awesome. And that brings me to point number 3 as well, that there are tons of awesome couples in this series. So if you saw my wrap-up, you will know that my bookish OTP is in these books, but they're not the only couple either. They're not the only people you can ship. There are tons of fun people to ship in these books, and it's awesome. Like, some of them are people who get together and like stay together, and some of them are not, and etc, etc, but it's just so much fun to see all of that. Reason number whatever we're on at this point, there are some really great villains in these books. So our protagonists face some vile people. I'm not kidding. Like, there are multiple people. Like, there isn't one single villain. Like, basically the premise of the books overall is that the main character has to destroy a god. There are like many, many gods in this world, and like one of them is a terrible, terrible god. But the real villains are kind of all over the story. So, you know, we get this woman who is actually trying to get her own children executed. We have the, like, douchey guy who you kind of think at first is, like, just a dumb jock, and then it turns out that he's a rapist, and he, like, beats people up, like, every chance he gets, and he's just a horrible, horrible person. And then we get, like, the ridiculous person who is just so, so terrible, all because, like, he just blindly follows his religion and, like, doesn't care about anyone else and anyone else but himself, to the point where he'll, like, kill his own wife and all this other stuff, like, just because it's more convenient and all kinds of stuff. And so it's just really insane. There are just, like, so many bad villains in this, and you get to see every little terrible thing that they do, and some of them are point of view characters as well, and it's just insane. So even though they're all, like, really bad, and they're kind of just bad, and they aren't really in any sort of in-between state where you see why they think that what they're doing is good or any of that stuff, they really have a lot of depth, because, like, every bad thing that they do is on scene, and it is, like, insane and so much fun to read about, because you just know why it's important for the protagonists to defeat these people. And finally, reason number 5 is the incredible world building. So basically, we mostly follow 3 kingdoms throughout this series, and they're all completely different from each other. Their governing systems are completely different from each other, like, their religions are completely different from each other. Every little, like, aspect about them is completely different from each other, and it's really fascinating. So, like, Jennifer Fallon really put a lot of, like, thought into creating these places. So the whole like world of these books sort of functions like ancient Greece that we see in like the Odyssey and all of those other things that most of us probably read in school, where the gods are active in people's lives and are constantly interfering with people. Within reason or sometimes not within reason. And so like they have some really really interesting gods, and especially the goddess of love, she usually appears as a child, and I think that is just so brilliant because of course, like of course a child, the goddess of love, like it makes so much sense, and yet we don't necessarily think about that because I don't know, most of the time we just don't really think of like, hey, the goddess of love as like familial love and child and parent love or any of that stuff. We kind of just think about like, oh, like boyfriend girlfriend love or something. But it go like this book just goes beyond sort of the normal things. And then also they have like a god of thieves and like all these other really interesting things, like that all these interesting concepts. And we kind of see a little bit in this world why though there is a god for those things. So anyway, I hope I have convinced you to give these books a shot. The second one is by far my favorite, so even if you kind of think the first one is just like I urge you to go keep reading and read the second one at least, because the second one is just brilliant, and so is the third one. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you very soon with a new video. Bye!